FanDuel Punch Out. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Nick Tasso at the Inefficient 2. Taking a look at today's main slate, 11 games. And as far as pitching goes, this is not one of the stronger pitching slates in baseball. I mean, probably one of the worst ones I've seen in a while. Not that there's bad arms, but in terms of cash game safety, there really isn't a ton.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of volatility on this slate, so you're going to kind of have to pray if you're going to be playing cash here.
Yeah, definitely. And look at the first one here. You got the Orioles and Yankees, CC Sabathia versus Kevin Gausman. And with the Yankees kind of hitting the ball a little bit better here, obviously Gary Sanchez in the middle of that lineup has kind of injected a lot of life. I do worry about Gausman a little bit, but he is one of the guys who I actually don't mind on this slate because he has been strong against left-handed bats. And he also has pitched really well against the Yankees this year.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there. You like Gausman, and he just has that high strikeout potential, so I definitely like him in this matchup. Again, like you said, it's one of those slates where you're not always going to be 100% comfortable, and that's the same with Gausman. He has a lot of potential here, but it could really go the other way pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely could. And on the other side, I know the Orioles bats are bad, but I'm not really looking to use Sabathia there.
No, not at all. He might have a good outing, and he could put up a decent amount of points, but it's just not a risk I want to take.
And as far as the bats go, I mean, on the Baltimore side, I do like some of these prices, like a Steve Pearce at 2,900, Jonathan Scope at 3K. I mean, I think those are certainly reasonable values.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only guy that I really would play in the higher kind of salary range would be Gary Sanchez, just because he's so hot. But for both these teams, I'm kind of really staying away from them if they're way too priced. But if you dig deep down and you see some guys in different spots and they're playing a little bit higher in the batting order than usual, only 3,000, 2,900, you got to kind of go with them.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, on the Yankees side, I mean, Gary Sanchez is the guy who I'm really looking to use. One, because Gosselin, I mean, is tough on lefties. So, I mean, Gardner and Ellsbury, I mean, could be in playing GPPs, but as far as cash games go, I think, one, if you're looking to use, it's just Gary Sanchez right now with Gosselin's reverse splits.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the only guy really in this game that I feel 100% safe playing in cash.
Yeah. Twins and Blue Jays next here. Kyle Gibson versus R.A. Dickey. In this game, as far as pitchers go, is something I don't really want to use. I don't see a ton of upside with either of these guys. And I think overall, this one probably going to be pretty friendly for offense.
Oh, absolutely. It's being in Rogers Center. You got to like that. So I definitely agree with you. Dickey and Gibson definitely aren't on my radar for this game here.
Yeah, definitely not. And as far as the Twins bats, I mean, obviously I think GPP plays for me going up against Dickey. I don't mind Brian Dozier, obviously, with as hot as he's been, Max Kepler, Miguel Sano. I'm kind of just looking more at those high upside plays than anything.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I probably wouldn't play Sano just because he's been pretty bad lately. But, yeah, I don't mind the other two. Kepler and Dozier both have been really solid. You even give Trevor Plouffe a chance as well. And even Jorge Polanco, he's been pretty solid lately. He's only 3,000.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Twins have a good mix of value there, as those guys you mentioned. Plouffe, certainly a guy you can take a look at third base. As far as the Blue Jays go, they're not my favorite offense, but they always have that definitely that blow potential. But Gibson's actually been not so bad against right-handed bats. So I'm kind of just leaning more towards GPPs at their prices, but I do like Devin Travis, 3,500, and then obviously guys like Russell Martin and Tulowitzki Gibbons swinging the bats well.
Yeah, absolutely. I also like Tulowitzki just because his price is really nice for this matchup here. And although Kyle Gibson, he is Kyle Gibson, he's still not the greatest. So I really have no issues utilizing a bunch of Toronto bats. Obviously, it's not ideal in cash games because they're kind of overpriced. Plus, they could kind of go quiet. But for GPPs, I definitely think it's worth using some of these guys.
Yeah, definitely do too. And as I mean, Jose Bautista, Donaldson, and Encarnacion are always kind of the three that you want to get exposure to if you are looking. But I think the value around them are certainly in a nice spot as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really don't like playing Melvin Upton, but you could definitely play him there. He's only 3,400, and then you look at Russell Martin as well. He's priced a little bit down, so I don't mind those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Angels and Tigers next. Tyler Skaggs versus Anibal Sanchez. And Tyler Skaggs is a guy who, I mean, had a couple nice starts early on when he returned to the Angels, but then obviously has just kind of fallen off of late. And I do worry about him. I mean, not a big swing to strike rate guy. I think, obviously, after yesterday, people are probably going to be burned of the Tigers, but I'll be heading back there today.
Yeah, absolutely. Skaggs really hasn't been impressive at all lately, so I really don't mind these Tigers bats. All of them are basically right-handed, and they can do a lot of damage against Skaggs.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side, I mean, Anibal Sanchez is certainly a guy who has had a couple decent starts, been up and down a little bit of late, but overall has not been good this year. And this is actually one of the first times I don't want to actually pick on the Angels just because Sanchez really doesn't give me a lot to trust.
No, it really doesn't, but he's been a lot better at home. So that's the only reason why I could see someone playing him. But it's not something that I'd really want to do. In GPPs, I think it's kind of okay, but the Angels bat sort of had started heating up again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually don't mind the Angels' bats today. I mean, I feel like Cole Calhoun, Albert Pujols are certainly at reasonable prices, and because pitching's so cheap, I mean, you can kind of afford Mike Trout and put him into your lineups if you wanted to.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Not many days I like to roster Mike Trout just because his surrounding cast, but I think they've kind of picked it up lately, and he could be worth that 4,300.
Yeah, you definitely could. But outside of that, I mean, it's always kind of picky. I mean, with the Angels, it's really front loaded with that offense. And because CJ Cron Pools, I mean, same position, it's kind of a bummer because you can't really roster the front four. You do have to choose one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. For the most part, I'm probably going to stay away from the Angels. I did want to note that Justin Upton is he's red hot right now, so you might want to roster him against Skaggs. He's only 3,400.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's had quite a few two-hit games of late. 3,400 certainly not that bad. And I don't even mind the rest of these guys here. I mean, JD Martinez 39. If you do want to pay up in outfield, I'm certainly okay with him. Kinsler, Maben, I mean Cabrera, all guys I'll be looking to use today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Tigers bats offer a lot of options. You just got to wait and see what that lineup comes out with.
Yep. Phillies and Mets next year. Vince Velasquez versus Robert Selman. And for me, as far as pitching goes in this one, obviously Selman gets a nice matchup against the Phillies, but looking at his numbers, I mean, throughout the minor leagues, there wasn't anything really impressive for me. Not a big strikeout rate. I mean, he could have a chance where he could maybe get 4 or 5, but I don't know if there's a ton of upside. I mean, maybe you don't really need it on this slate. You can kind of stack some hitters around him, but I don't know. It's hard to trust a new guy like this coming into the league.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I know the Phillies aren't really a great offense, and does kind of have a good matchup at Citi Field, but I'm just staying away from him. I don't think there's a lot of upside here. Still a big unknown, and strikeout potential might not be there, so I'm just staying away from him.
Yeah, and as far as Velasquez goes on the other side, I'm kind of intrigued because I know the GPP potential is there, but certainly the low floor is there as well. But 27% strikeout rate this year. I mean, the Mets, obviously, they have been getting healthy, but 25th in WOBA, still 22% strikeout rate. I mean, Velasquez is a guy who could dial up some strikeouts and give you a reasonable ceiling. But obviously, I mean, that floor we've seen over the last few starts has been really low.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're guaranteed to get probably at least five strikeouts from Velasquez, and with upwards up to 10 or 12. So I think that definitely puts him in the conversation for GPP plays. And his price isn't too bad. You can kind of fit him in. You don't have to worry about roster construction too much at this point. 7,800, you can do a lot of things with it. So I really don't mind him. Again, just got to stay away from cash games, though.
Yeah, definitely do. And as far as using hitters here, I mean, on that Philly side, I don't mind Cesar Hernandez, Odubel Herrera. I think those are reasonable prices. Even a Mike Franco. I mean, Selman's kind of it leaves a lot to be desired, and I think you can actually use a couple Phillies bats for value there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really mind those guys. Throw them in and just kind of be happy with that. Get a couple of hits, and they could easily reach their value. Other than that, I'm really not attacking this game too much. It's Citi Field, it's a pitcher's park, and it's just not one of those things that I want to do.
Yeah, I'm not really looking to use a lot of Mets. I mean, you could make a case for a guy like Neil Walker or Cespedes with how they've been swinging of late, but that's about it. I think as far as like the Reyes and Cabrera grouping, it's you just want to lean towards other options.
Oh, absolutely.
Next one, you got the Marlins and Padres, Justin Nicolino versus Luis Perdomo. And Nicolino starting here for Andrew Cashner, who was scratched yesterday. I was kind of bummed. I wanted the revenge game narrative for Cashner, but we're not going to get that.
Yeah. Oh, well. I mean, do you really think he would have done something?
No, but it still would have been fun.
Probably saved you money, so let's put it that way.
That's true. But look at Nicolino. I mean, obviously the Padres have struggled with lefties tremendously of late. Nicolino isn't really a talented guy. I kind of just am staying away. I mean, he is cheap. It is the Padres, but I don't quite see how he goes deep into the game more than 5 or 6 innings and pitches, relatively well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he could probably shut him down for 5 innings or so, but what strikeouts will he get? I mean, you look at his last few starts when he was up in the big leagues, and he barely got a handful of strikeouts. So there's really not a lot to like here. And I know this Padres offense has been extremely bad against lefties, but they still have some hitters in there that could kind of do damage, and it's just not something I want to do.
No, me either. And I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, Will Myers, I think, is one of those guys you were talking about who's a decent option against left-handers. I mean, I don't mind him at that price tag at all. I mean, he's cooled off, but great matchup for him here. Same thing with Solarte. I think those are the two guys I don't mind taking a chance on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not too many guys in this Padres offense that I'm itching to play, but definitely Will Myers is up there, and I agree with you. Even Solarte, under 3K, he can still do some damage.
Yeah, certainly can. And on the other side, I mean, Perdomo's a guy I'm not looking to use. I'm hoping the Marlins offense can get things going today because I do like their front five here. I think there's a lot of potential for this offense in today's matchup. I mean, Perdomo struggles against both sides. Obviously, a downgrade in the park factors, but guys like Yelich, Ozuna, certainly a lot of upside there. And obviously, Gordon's prices come down enough where I can feel comfortable using him.
Yeah, absolutely. I really don't see anything wrong doing that. I mean, I just personally don't think that there's a huge upside with the Miami bats, but there's definitely potential there.
Yeah. No, I know. You look at this series and how it's played out. I mean, really low-scoring games, and obviously without Stanton in the middle of that lineup, it does take a lot of the appeal out of the front order in terms of big-time power. But Yelich and Ozuna still definitely have some pop there.
Absolutely. And when you look at the guys 3K and under, you could still get some production from Prado and Rio Milito as well.
Yeah, definitely could. Rockies Nationals next year. Lucas Giolito versus Chad Bettis. If you were looking, I mean, obviously Giolito, based on Vegas numbers, would be a solid play today. Just 6,700. I mean, you got the Rockies projected for under 4 runs. Nationals minus 175 favorites. In GPPs, I don't mind him. Obviously, this Rockies team is not that good not that good on the road. But I kind of do still worry about the lefties in that outfield there for Giolito. I think he might struggle just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually staying away from both pitchers in this game. I just think they're both too volatile right now, and I think it's going to be a lot of offense. So definitely agree with you. You got Blackman, Gonzalez, both lefties. Dahl, he could really do something as well. So definitely staying away from Giolito here.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, those names are certainly – I think those are going to be pretty overlooked on today's slate. I mean, I can't see a ton of ownership for those 3 names. I mean, maybe Dahl because of the price. But, I mean, you toss in Arenado as well. I think the Rockies are kind of an intriguing stack, too.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. I mean, you look at Giolito, and he really didn't show much a few months ago when he was up in the big leagues, and I really don't expect a lot out of him here. And you look at the price tags, they're all pretty nice, and it's a big slate, so I think a lot of people could be off this game. A lot of people look at Colorado teams whenever they're on the road. They just kind of forget about them.
Yeah, it definitely could. But, as always, it is kind of limited to just those 4 names.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to dig too deep away from Coors Field.
Nah. As far as the Nationals go, I mean, I like them a lot here. I mean, Chad Bettis, reverse splits guy, but obviously he's pretty average against lefties too. Guys like Trey Turner, Jason Worth, I mean, Rendon, Ramos, I'm okay with really targeting them in any format. And then obviously if you wanted to pay up for Harper or Murphy, it's always kind of an easy play against average right-handers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite play on the Nationals today, when you consider the price, would be Rendon. He's just performed so well, and he's only 3,300. So I definitely like him here. Also agree with you. Anyone in the top 5, 6 are definitely in play for Washington.
Yeah, definitely are. And as you mentioned, I mean, Rendon is that nice value piece. And I think if I am paying up for one of their expensive ones, I think it's just going to be Turner at this point with the upside and floor that he's given.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like every time we talk, we say which one of the top 3 are we going to pay up for the Nationals, and I think it always comes to Turner.
Yeah, I mean, he's just out of those guys. I mean, obviously Murphy, Harper have been doing it over a longer, sample size, but Turner just way too hot right now. With those stolen bases, I mean, really hard to fade.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I still think Harper has a lot of home run potential here at home, but you're still kind of chasing home runs with him.
Yeah. Pirates and Brewers next year. Chase Anderson versus Ivan Nova. Ivan Nova's been a guy who I do actually think is going to benefit well from being in Pittsburgh. I'm a little worried about him in this matchup against the Brewers, more so because of the ballpark. I mean, you just look at Nova, not particularly great against either side of the plate. Do I think he's going to pitch relatively well? Sure. But I think you can make a case for a couple of these Brewers bats and GPPs.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Nova's pitched well in his 4 starts with the Bucks, but I'm staying really away from him. I'm just not a huge fan of him in this matchup. He just gives up home runs so much. I know he's only given up 1 in his last 4 with the Pirates, but before that, he was just having insane numbers when he was with the Yankees, and that had a lot to do with the ballpark. But still, it's just one of those things. He's kind of prone to giving up home runs, and ballpark wise, this isn't really a pitcher friendly park.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, Nova 1.31 home runs per 9 to righties since last year. I mean, guys like Ryan Braun, I mean, obviously you're probably going to be a little bit underowned because of the price and because of the other matchups around him. But I don't mind like a Scooter Gennett at second base or a Jonathan Villar or even a Chris Carter in GPPs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the power bats are kind of in play, even righty-righty matchup with Chris Carter. I could probably even get behind Broxton as well. He's shown a little bit of power this year, so I don't mind him too. And then you just look at the other pieces for Milwaukee and just kind of plug them in as you see the lineup and see where they're hitting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a good point. It does shift around quite a bit. As far as the Pirates go, Chase Anderson obviously is a guy, reverse splits. Pirates offense really, not a reliable team to target, but I do like them here. I mean, the McCutcheon and Marte price tags really aren't that bad, even at Josh Harrison. And I even don't mind Bell and Polanco. I think those are solid values. I mean, Bell's the only one who I don't like as much on FanDuel because he's first base eligible. DraftKings, it's outfielder, so it makes it a little bit easier to play. But I don't mind the Pirates front 5, but obviously they are kind of that boomer bust offense at this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reverse splits with Anderson will definitely play in here. So I see them having a pretty good game. You look at them, and almost all their hitters, or at least their good hitters, are righties outside of Polanco. So I definitely agree with you here. I like all these guys.
Rays and Astros next year, Doug Fister versus Chris Archer, and I think pitching in this one is going to be probably where I land myself the most. Obviously Fister is in a solid matchup against the Rays offense that really hasn't done a ton. The only problem is, there's no real clear-cut winner here, and I could see a scenario that plays out where neither of these guys maybe get the win, and it turns into kind of a deep game that might be decided in the bullpen.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there. You look at Fister, and he struggled immensely against lefties this year. He's coming off a good start, but there's a few lefties that kind of could give him some problems. You got Brad Miller. But other than that, you got like Corey Dickerson and Logan Morrison, and those really are up and down plays. So they could bring it or they could not in this matchup. And I just think that they might hit him a little last outing. This game is in Minute Maid, so I was a little hesitant playing Doug Fister, but I still like him.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side, Chris Archer, 9,400. He's a guy I really don't mind because of that strikeout upside. And you look at Archer has pitched a lot more consistent lately, especially in the second half. And given he has a 28% strikeout rate, I think that does help out with his floor a little bit, because if he does give up, 200 to 300 runs, he can certainly balance it out with strikeouts. And this Astros team does strike out a lot against right-handers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. I really like Archer, and I think he's even somewhat borderline of able to be a cash play in this matchup. There's just so much upside here, and the floor, even like you said, if he gives up a couple home runs, he still can get those strikeouts that will still give you a pretty good outing. So I kind of don't mind him here.
Yeah, I think, because the slate is what it is as far as pitching goes, it kind of forces Archer to be more of a cash game guy if you want to go that way.
Oh, absolutely. You look at most of the starters, and you're not comfortable about almost any one of them. But in this matchup, with the strikeout potential that Archer has, and you look at Houston, their strikeout rate, that he could do a lot of things here.
Yeah, definitely could. As far as hitters go, as you mentioned, Fister does struggle with lefties. I'm certainly okay with the Brad Miller, Kevin Kiermaier. I probably won't be diving it down until to the Morrison or Dickerson range, just because of really how they've been over the recent stretch. And with them, you're more often to get a zero than not.
No, I agree with you, but it is Sunday, so I'll probably be playing a little bit of Corey Dickerson.
That's true. Sunday Corey Dickerson, it's a
Yeah,
thing.
it's a weird thing, but it happens. So I agree with you there. I'm staying away from Logan Morrison, though. He's really been awful.
As far as Houston goes, I mean, I don't see for the price how I can really target Archer. I just think paying 4K for Springer Altuve Correa is a little bit out of my range today.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of guys in that 4K range who are in better matchups that you could probably utilize. So I agree. Stay away.
Mariners and White Sox next year, Carlos Rodon versus Taijuan Walker. Rodon's a guy who's pitched relatively well in the second half. We've seen over the series so far, Seattle's been pretty stagnant against their left-handed pitching. I could see Rodon being actually a decent GPP play, but obviously there's still a little bit of a risk going up with a couple of those righty bats. I do like Rodon because he is extremely tough on left-handed pitching or left-handed hitters, allowing just a 247 WOBA. So that could take a lot of those Seattle bats out of play, really outside of Cruz and Gutierrez.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think his price is kind of right where it should be. 8,200 isn't too bad. I agree. You can't really play him in cash. He just doesn't have that big of an upside where if he does get hit a little bit hard, he can offset that with strikeouts. He's kind of been middling around 4 or 5 lately. So there's really not a huge potential there. And if he does give up the hits, like I said, he could be in some trouble.
Yeah, he definitely could. It is one of those GPP plays. And as far as Walker goes on the other side, I mean, I'm not really looking to use him. I know this White Sox offense isn't that great, but Walker on the road scares me. Gives up a ton of home runs. Very cheap guy, but I think I'm just kind of looking to fade.
Yeah, absolutely. He last year he was good, and all of a sudden he lost it this year, and he's been pretty terrible. So I'm staying really far away from him.
Yeah, and as far as bats go in this one, I think Seattle, I mean, the only ones I'm really looking to use are Franklin Gutierrez and Nelson Cruz. Just that right-handed power upside, and Cruz's price against the lefty at 35 just seems oddly low for the matchup, but I'll take that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Cruz a lot. 3,500 is a really nice price for him against the lefty, like you said. So I don't mind him here. It has a lot of potential. I really doubt he'll go for 4. So I definitely think he's even cash game viable. And another guy I don't mind in this game matchup going up against Walker would be Abreu. He's been red hot lately, so I like him here.
Yeah, I definitely do too. I mean, Walker is a guy who pretty average against righties. 1.40 home runs per nine, as we mentioned, that home run potential is certainly there. 1.63 home runs per nine to lefties since last year. So, I mean, I'm okay with flying away in terms of chasing some upside. I mean, the only one who I feel is out of price is Todd Frazier.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's been out of play for a long time now.
Yeah, it's true. It's been a while since we've mentioned his name here on FanDuel.
Yeah, I don't get why don't they just lower his price so people will play him? It's really sad.
Maybe it's saving me some money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a trap, but
Yeah.
he has hit his last 3 games. He's been pretty well, but other than that, he's been awful.
Yeah, no, he certainly has been a low floor guy for most of the season.
0 for 4.
A's and Cardinals next year, Jaime Garcia versus Andrew Triggs. Garcia's been a guy who's been very inconsistent this year. He's a guy who, I mean, obviously this matchup would have set things up nicely for him in terms of being a cash game guy. I just can't get behind. I mean, I could see him coming away with a win here. I could see him pitching a decent start. I mean, he is going to be a borderline cash game play just for the price. But as far as upside goes, as far as safety goes, just like the theme with everyone else, it doesn't really fall into place.
Typically, I would agree with you, but I don't know what is going on with Jaime Garcia. He's looked really awful, and the thing that's concerning is just the amount of home runs that he's given up because he's one of those guys who just never, ever gives up home runs. And for him to give up 6 over his last 3 starts is very concerning to me. And then you add that this has Oakland offense that could really hit lefties hard. So I'm kind of staying away. I still think he has a good outing, but I'm just not comfortable with it at all.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, hesitation for me with Garcia and cash would be something that'd be. I would just go right to the bar after I locked him in and went because I could not stomach watching him pitch. It's either on or he's completely off. And as you mentioned, I mean, there are really 4 bats that I really do like for Oakland. I think because I like those Oakland prices more, I think it'll just be kind of push me off Garcia because I'll have some A's exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the last time he struggled like this, there was some sort of injury a year or two ago. So I'm a little hesitant playing him. I still think he's in a good matchup, but there's just a lot of risk for me. And he's been one of my favorite pitchers, but I really just don't know what's going on with him lately.
Yeah, something's certainly up. And I mean, guys like Marcus Semien, Jake Smolinski, Danny Valencia, Chris Davis, I mean, all really solid prices, all 3,500 or 3,500 and under. I mean, um, low threes. I think they're cash game viable, especially guys like Smolinski and Semien.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you there. I have a little hesitation just because this Oakland offense really hasn't shown too much lately. So I'm kind of on the fence with this game. I'm probably going to stay away from the majority of this game. But I will say I do like Smolinski's price tag on the slate. It's only 2,700.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side, I mean, I actually like Andrew Triggs, not as a play today, but as a guy who I'm not really looking to target against. He's shown some decent stuff so far, and this Cardinals offense, I mean, for their prices, haven't really been paying things off. So I think I'm just kind of fading the Cardinals today.
Yeah, I mean, Triggs did look good in his last start, so he kind of has that going for him. But I don't know. I'm just staying away from this game all in general. There's really not a lot to like here.
No, not a good hit. Not a good hitting park as well. Never really a ton of upside in Blue Stadium games anyway.
No, and the pitchers are just so like right now that you kind of don't want to play anyone.
Indians and Rangers next year. Derek Holland versus Danny Salazar. Indians bats have kind of fallen off a little bit here of late. They're not quite the easy locks, but I think today's matchup against Holland, you can definitely target away with some of those right-handers.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, Holland looked good in his last start, but it's still Derek Holland and a lot of issues here. So I definitely don't mind utilizing some of these Cleveland bats, especially Lindor. I like him. He's a nice price, 3,400, and the same price to Mike Napoli. So those two guys, it's technically a revenge game for Napoli as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he knows this park pretty well, and you look at Holland. I mean, 350 Woba to righty since last year. Napoli. I mean, Lindor is certainly in play at 3,400. Rajai Davis at 33. I even don't mind a Brandon Geyer at 2,900 with the way he crushes left-handers, and then give him a bump ball for that ballpark too.
Yeah, that's actually a good call. So, I mean, this ballpark really should have a lot of home runs flying out of it, and Geyer can get you some cheap power.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with our talk of the Indians, and we kind of glossed over Holland, easily not in play.
Um, I mean, he did have a I mean, you might as well play him.
Yeah. As far as the
That was a
Indians,
joke. Sorry, everybody. You can continue with the Indians now.
as far as I mean, Danny Salazar, he's a guy who I think something's still up with. Since coming back from the DL, is not a guy who has looked good like his usual self. In this ballpark and matchup, I think Salazar is a guy who, at that price point, I can stay away from.
Yeah, I think it's an easy fade. I think this game is going to be a very high offensive game, so I definitely won't be using any pitchers here.
Definitely not. And on the Rangers side, I mean, I do like these bats, and it's kind of always 1 through 6 with me because they're so deep. And I feel like outside of maybe Desmond and Beltran, I feel like the rest are definitely options that are going to be used just because Desmond and Beltran are kind of priced up around other bats in better spots, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I think this is one of those games where you could just use a lot of these Texas bats, so I really don't mind them. Beltre, I don't think the price is too bad. It's only 3,300.
I was
Oh,
Beltran.
you said Beltran. See, that's why you got me so confused. Because I was going to talk about Adrian Beltre, and then you got me all confused when you said Beltre.
No,
But
Beltre's price is
anyway,
certainly reasonable.
yeah, I think that's a nice price, 3,300. So I definitely wouldn't mind using him and Jonathan Lucroy in this matchup.
Yeah, Luke Roy's, obviously his numbers against righties this year, 3,200. That's certainly a decent price. Nice swerve off of Sanchez, who I think is going to be probably the popular catcher with his Babe Ruth type numbers so far.
So what do you think Sanchez will be at? 50%?
It's got to be up there. I mean, his price is up there, but it's got to be close. I mean, and Gossman, because he's reverse splits and still gives up a ton of homers to righties, I don't know. I think Sanchez could do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I like Sanchez, but if you didn't want to go that route, if you're doing GPPs, Lucroy definitely, to me, is another guy up there.
Yeah, definitely. And you save a couple $100.
Absolutely. And when you're constructing lineups that matters every single time.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's going to wrap things up with the FanDuel Punch Out. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for our great tools and content.